When you are bootstrapping your e-commerce business, every penny counts. But many of you are wasting money and doing the wrong things at the wrong time. My guest today is Ari Gordon of Like and Likes, and we are going to break down exactly what you should be doing as a bootstrapping e-commerce brand. There is a time and a place for when to do meta ads and when to engage in TikTok Shop. And we are going to talk about both of those, and it is going to blow your mind. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the podcast. I am really excited for today's conversation. This is a topic that I get a lot of questions about. It's definitely very relevant to almost all of you. Anyone who's doing e-commerce, you're definitely going to want to listen in to my conversation today with Ari Gordon of Like and Likes. So welcome.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Yeah. So I met you a couple years ago when you were kind of back and forth from Seattle to Denver. And at the time we met, you had a matcha tea, like an adaptogenic matcha tea powder called Hone was the brand name. And since then, you were growing that and really scaling it, and you really like went through a lot of challenges and growth through that. And then you decided to shut that down. And now you are using everything that you learned in that business as you grew it through e-commerce to help other brands. So maybe just go into a little bit more of the background. Like tell us about Hone, and you got started in 2019, and like what happened in those, 5 years?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Hone it was a mushroom matcha blend, right? And so we're kind of trying to compete with like the Mud Waters and Everyday Doses of the world, right? We launched about the same time in 2019, right before the pandemic. So perfect timing. And our a lot of our supply chain was overseas. So that immediately was the challenge, right? And we just kind of learn how to do it from there, right? I think that was also a blessing in a way because we were fully focused on e-commerce because of it. So originally we were just posting on socials, just trying to go viral and everything, and growing our email list and growing our SMS list and just doing the things to get it so we could actually run ads. And then because we were basically bootstrapping, we had to learn how to do everything ourselves. So it took a pretty intensive course on how to make it meta ad successful rather than just kind of throwing money at the ether and praying that it works. So
Let me
learning how to
boost this
test,
post.
yeah, all the time. And I mean, I had to like slap my business partner on the wrist sometimes, like, no, don't do that. Like, let's just try to actually make money
Let's
off of
not
this.
burn money. How about
Yeah.
that?
And I mean, we grew our business and we learned how to use absolutely no money to make money and then how to have like a relatively big budget because eventually we raised like 300K. And then just we got into Kroger as well. So we kind of got some good touches to be able to actually grow it. Um, we can talk about this later, but Kroger is a blessing and a curse, right? And so that was kind of a part of why we decided to shut it down. Is we also got sued at the same time, so we were kind of over it. But it was great. We learned everything that we really could, and now I'm lucky enough to be able to have enough knowledge to help other founders and doing this e-commerce agency with a lot of we're applying AI to basically everything, so it's faster and cheaper and better, really. And so yeah.
I love it. So you really grew this as a direct to consumer brand first. I mean, you kind of didn't have a choice. You launched it and then the world shut down.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like you were growing it. What did you grow it to, if you don't mind sharing numbers? What did you grow it to like before you started getting into wholesale?
Yeah, we were at about 200K.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So you grew it from nothing to growing it through social, and I mean TikTok wasn't even really much of a thing.
No, which
Point.
is
So,
also a bummer.
right, you're like, if only we had TikTok.
But
So then I mean, this is the challenge, right? With any CPG business is like, cool, we got into Kroger, amazing. And then you need a whole bunch of capital to scale.
yep, yep.
The cash flow challenges are real.
And time. I mean, like then you have to go and table at all these stores.
Yeah.
And then like if you have any production issues, which we also did, then everything also becomes a mess in that regard too.
Oh, the story of CPG. But what I loved is, I mean, you took some time off to kind of, process all of that.
Yeah,
But
sure.
what you were realizing is like, oh, I actually have like a real skill and passion for like getting into Meta, using ads and using AI to really make all of this work.
Mhm.
And I love that you have taken, that's like that silver lining, one of many, but silver
For sure.
lining from the business.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I mean that was what by the end, right? Because I mean it kind of stories kind of always go back to cook, but I had to automate our entire business, right? I didn't have time to do any of the marketing for several months, right? Because I was going all across Colorado to go store to store and sampling, and then I did the same thing in Seattle and like the Fred Meyers, right? And so I learned how to make all of our social media posts through AI, our ads through it. And that was a skill that not many people already had at that time. And with my knowledge with doing ads, like it just became a thing where the way that I approach e-commerce is from a founder's position rather than from an agency position, which is
Yeah.
just how do we make them spend as much money as possible and then do okay. Mine's like how do we actually grow your business? Right.
Right, which I have not had very many, if I don't know if any, like because we're going to talk about ads, and it's not something that I've been reluctant. I am reluctant to kind of endorse or refer out because I do find most people are agencies, and it's expensive and it can be a big drain. And you just never know, like, do people really get it? Are they, And I've just heard so many horror stories of founders that invest with an agency that makes all these promises and then under delivers. And it's so frustrating and can be a really big drain on your budget. And so when you and I reconnected, and you're like, I'm doing this, you and I have been in a lot of conversations about this, and I'm seeing your business, and I'm like, okay, you actually know what you're doing.
For sure.
And you have the founder's perspective as well and
Yeah,
understand that budgets are tight.
for sure. And so, I mean, like ads aren't for everybody, right?
No.
And I think like that's the thing that is, I guess, a little bit different than how I approach it, right? It's like I will tell you don't do it.
Right. Because some people are like turnkey, just yeah, everybody should be doing ads. Let's just throw money at it. And it's like it's not for
Yeah.
every business and it's not for every stage of business.
No, yeah.
And so
And it
let's get into
changes.
it. We can talk
Yeah.
about it. Some
Yeah.
people are like, okay, thanks, but like let's really talk about.
For
So
sure.
when you're first starting out, what do you recommend as an e-commerce brand to like start that growth process? Where would you invest?
Yeah, I mean, everything is always content. And I think it's really hard as an e-commerce founder to get yourself to actually do the content, right? And like in any regard or what that means. And I think that's what you have to try to change about yourself, right? Is how do you get yourself to post daily? How do you get yourself to film yourself if you can? How do you get to the point where you actually can do your own content, right? Especially in this world that it's becoming like you have to constantly bring stuff out. If you can become a content creator, that's essentially what the business is, right? And I know that that's kind of a hard reality sometimes, right? But that is the
Yeah.
truth.
Like I just want
But
to sell my matcha tea, my
yeah,
mushroom blend. That's what I'm doing, but you have to create all this content to do that. That's part of the
for
game.
sure. And like, and and don't be afraid. And I think that's just the biggest thing, right? Just force yourself to do it and you'll get better over it and you'll end up liking it. I mean, content is fun. Like that's really the idea of it, right?
Yeah.
Even if we're not the young people, right? It's still like it still can be enjoyable.
Right. And I'll do a quick little plug. We have an incredible social media course that Kayla King came and did for us. And it's like, how do you pump out all this content and make it really fast, really easy? And we got to drop all that, perfectionism of like, I need to be
For
camera
sure.
ready at all times.
You never and you never know it's gonna blow up, especially on TikTok. Like
Yeah.
there's the weirdest videos that just go viral. So,
Yeah. I know,
but
right? And it can be like 4 seconds long.
I know you genuinely have no idea.
So you're
But
creating
yeah,
content, you're putting it out on social media. Where else should you be using your content?
yeah. So I mean, that's the first place, right? And then I mean, even before that, right? You need to do email and SMS marketing, right? Like I know, especially SMS, people are skeptical every now and then, and it works, right? It might take a little bit to grow that list, but it does work, and it's shown to work, and people are just kind of accepting it. The people that don't want to text will text stop, right? So
Right.
it's all good. You're not going to lose that customer either way. But yeah, have a pop up, set that up right now, and try to get that going. And try to send out. I mean, send out an email every week, right? Come up with something and have your pop up be 10% discount, right? Don't have it be a newsletter because you're gonna get a lot more
Join our
people.
newsletter list. Nobody cares. Nobody's ever going to
Yeah,
join.
everybody gets like so much of it, right? So don't do that.
Yeah,
But
you
have your
definitely
flows
need
set up too, right?
some incentive. Yeah, for sure.
Like your welcome flows, get that really positive, and try to do a good job on it, right? Like I think like that's a thing that I would suggest hiring out for if you're not a designer, right? Just because as soon as those are done, then you have a template and you have like 20 emails templates that you can use for weekly, and then you can do it yourself on a weekly
Yeah.
basis that look good and everything. But that initial flow setup, if you don't really know what you're doing, try to get a few K out and get somebody to do it for you. Right.
Yeah. And you do that with in your company, helping people get those flows set up. And they are tedious and it does matter. Like layout does matter for sure. So I'm a
Sure.
big fan of finding who's to like make things, the things that you're not good at, just hire out, make the investment. It'll be well worth it
100%.
because, well, I'm curious, how did you get people on your email list? Was it just through that discount piece, and like just creating interesting content and then
No, I mean
offering a
we did
discount?
markets too. And so we would always get people to sign up at our markets, right? And then giveaways are probably the biggest one, right? And
Okay.
so we would just partner with different brands and do giveaways for them and just be like, you have to like us on Instagram, you have to give us your email, right? And you have to do all this, and all of a sudden you get 1,000, 2,000 emails from a giveaway, right?
Okay. So
Yeah, and they're
doing
all
those
interested.
collaborations. All right.
Hmm. And so you
Nice.
can find other brands around you and
Yeah. So you put in all this energy up front to get all these emails. And then if you don't have a good welcome flow and things set up, then you're like, it's like, that's just such a wasted investment. So,
Mhm.
and you want somebody that can work with you that's like looking and seeing what's working, where are people falling off? Let's tweak this one, change that photo or that subject line. And you're using AI for so much of this that you're able to come up with great stuff, to test it, to do, different kinds of A/B testing and things like that.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, we built a tool that basically takes in all the data that's worked and we find out what tone of voice has gotten the most open rates and purchases, and then we adjust it accordingly, right? And then we basically built all this out. So like it creates really good copywriting, right? We always make sure that we check it though, right? Because you don't really know
That's the
about that.
thing with AI. You gotta like use
Yeah,
it for what it's good at, but always have the human, the human
for
check.
sure. Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, so building out, starting with your email list. I mean, that's the only way you own your customer, right? That's the only way that you're
Mhm.
going to be able to talk directly to them. And it's really important. Always, 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 always be growing your email list.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, like one of the brands we're working with is a pretty big brand, and because we're doing so much more on TikTok now, right? Like their email list is actually shrinking.
Mm,
And we were like, okay, well, we have to start running meta ads to actually continue to grow the email list, not to get anything else, just to get emails, right? And so no matter what the scale, it's like you always want your emails because it can account for 20 to 40% of your revenue, almost always.
yeah. Yeah, it's got a huge ROI, and we got to get
Yeah,
over our fear of sending too many emails.
I know. Yeah, I mean,
Unsubscribes, like,
some brands send it every day.
yeah.
And
I
that's the
get, I
trend
mean,
more and
there's a
more.
lot of I just have like an email, right? Like the thing that most of
Yeah.
my like that kind of stuff goes to. And yeah, I get a lot, but it's
Same.
fascinating. I also use it as, it can be very like, oh, what do they do? What are they doing here? I see. Yeah. Just
For
looking at
sure.
the case studies.
And like if you don't have your flow set up right, and you've been running your business for 2 to 3 years or even a year, you'll if you go and spend 2 to 5K on designs, you will make your money back in 2 months, right?
Mhm.
Like you already have the email list, you're already there. You just if you don't have that set up, like you'll get that money back so quickly that like you just need to do it, right?
Yeah, it's
But
powerful
like,
stuff when you do it right,
yeah,
for sure.
for sure.
All right. So email list is first, SMS,
Yep.
which I have not worked with very much, but I'm glad you have experience with that. I'm sure some people
Yeah.
are a little intimidated. I mean, I recommend using Klaviyo. Is that the system you used, or what do you use?
Yeah, for email, Klaviyo is the easiest and the best, right? For sure. Recommend One Text for SMS.
Okay.
They just have a good job and they have a lot better automated system for abandoned cart and everything like that. Their
Okay.
kind of system is built around that, so it's kind of a new one. And
Great.
then, but if you want it simple and easy, just use Klaviyo. They have
Just
both,
because
and you
they
can
have
just get
both.
it
Yeah.
done. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Let's talk about meta ads. So in the past, I've always been a fan. I've said, do not boost posts. That is burnt like just lighting money on fire. I'm a big fan of lead ads, and I've talked about that with Zach Buckler on another podcast, and he's done a course in my program. And that's a way to get people, paying some money towards ads that are specifically to get people on your email list.
Yep.
But we're going to talk about those direct to purchase ads, which
Yeah,
are very scary for some people, including me. I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to do that for me. But
totally.
tell us about like what do we need to know about direct to purchase ads? Like what's the budget? And I think where do we need to be at as far as a stage in our business?
Yeah, I mean, I always recommend, and this is not what we did with Hone, but just because if you really don't know anything about it and you don't have a care to learn anything about it, right? Like you need probably 5K a month, like that you can go do this. And you need that for 2 months at least, right? So like assume it's a 10K investment
Okay.
up front, like if you have it, right? Um, and then you can start getting people if you have the right agency, right? Then you can start making close to 5K revenue by the third month, right? The second month will be like assume you get half of that, right? Um, but you essentially like you have to test, right? This world is about testing and testing fast and just kind of seeing what happens. What the world now is that testing is faster and easier, right? When we were doing it, we had to really intensely test, right? And do all the thing like that. Um, but like we can get there a lot faster now, right? Like our testing took 3 to 6 months to get us to a place that we had a good landing page and a good ads and like actually like being able to monitor it because I don't know if any of you guys were in business, but when the iOS update happened in 2020, I believe it just made it so you couldn't track anymore, like at
Yeah, I
all.
mean, really challenging.
And then you had to spend $500 a month at least on a tracking software, right? And so like that just made it so you just had no really idea, right? And now that's changed, right? Facebook is actually pretty good for tracking again, which is great. So you don't have to spend $500 a month on tracking software, which is lovely.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so essentially like what we do, right? And I think this is what I would recommend no matter what is you want to take it a step-by-step process, right? So like look at it as like a scientific test, right? Is like first you want to test what people actually what problem are you solving, right? I know it's kind of hard for food, right? But like the example that I have is we have a seafood brand that we work with, and like okay, like what problem is seafood for people, right? But it's like really like what people are looking for and why they want the best seafood is if they want it to be as fresh as possible, they want it to taste the best, right?
Mhm.
Like yeah, that's simple, but like we were like, okay, it has to be restaurant quality, we have to do this. But until we really tested it, we're like, no, those are the only two things people care about, right? Is the fresh and taste. And so like as soon as we kind of like looked into it, the pain points became very clear. And so we scraped data from Reddit, we scraped data from like Amazon reviews, so your competitors' Amazon reviews. You can go and do this yourself. Just look at your top 5 competitors, go on to Amazon and just look at all of them. We have a tool that scrapes it, right? So we have more information. And then you turn in that into copywriting. You go in and actually like full on test that copywriting to see what actually works and what doesn't work, what people click on. Then you turn that into headlines, right? So like instead of just like, I wish I had fresher seafood, it becomes like, get the freshest seafood out there, right? Obviously, those aren't that good, but
Yeah, it gives you so
something,
many more options. I'm like, oh, that's really clever. Never would have
yeah,
thought of that.
for sure. And then now all of a sudden you just know, right? Like it's like now you have your step process and you can be there, and then you can do it in the accurate, correct way. And then you go and make images on it, right? Then you put all that copywriting onto images, and then you can just test those images and you keep on going, right? Just
Right.
keep on seeing what's working, what themes are working, what ideas are working, and you're just always monitoring and seeing what makes the most sense. Eventually, you want to do the same thing with a landing page, right? Like you basically get to a point where you're at a certain ROAS, so return on ad spend, and then you can basically plug that into the landing page because you know what copywriting works, you know what images work, you know what people care about, and then you can just basically make it, right?
Hmm.
Obviously, that's very simple, but it's like, yeah, anybody can do it, and I am confident in that. It's just it's an effort, and it's an effort that you kind of just have to recognize and be willing to do if you want to do it yourself.
It's a discipline, and
Yeah,
in most, I'm not disciplined, frankly, enough to do each of those pieces because you really need to be testing headlines, you need to be testing copy, you need to be testing images, and you need to be testing your audience.
yeah,
And in any one ad, you only want to test one variable. And so you do need, this is why, the budget is what it is because you need to be getting enough people in there and you're testing all of these different things. And maybe,
yeah.
I don't know if you go through one and then the other and then the other, but in it, you need to be running a lot of ads and getting a lot of information back for it to go quickly.
Yeah. And then like as soon as you that's just your baseline, right? Like as soon as you have all this, then you have a lot of data to support how you make the next set of apps, right?
Right.
And then you like really the best way to do it is you're doing new creative every month, right? So like not only are you doing what you did with the copywriting, but now you found out what imagery works or what doesn't work and you make a new creative again, right? Which is
Yeah.
where it gets expensive, right? You can do it without it. Like again, the supplement brand I'm working with, like they don't do new creative. And we're just basically taking their creative and plugging in the copywriting that we've seen work, right? And just into their imagery. And we've seen great success with it,
Mhm.
right? Like we've on some of the ads, we've seen 4x ROAS just by doing that,
Yeah.
right?
So a ROAS again is return on ad spend. So that's a term you'll hear or CAC, cost of customer acquisition.
Those are the big
All
ones.
these terms that we throw around, all these acronyms. But
And then there's so many
um
acronyms that mean the exact same thing, but are just different.
but yeah, like sometimes I'll be like, uh-huh, yeah, and then I'm like over on the side, like looking up, what does that mean?
Yeah.
But um, so for people listening, they might be like, what? 5K? I need to invest that? Like, what's wrong with, putting in, I don't know, $500 a month into trying out an ad? So I'm just curious, like, what
Yeah,
would you tell somebody who's just wanting to just get started, but that might be a little much on the budget?
for sure. And it really like if so what I think happens in this is we get to the point of like that was a really good piece of content. Let's just go see how it does on ads, right? Which is totally fine, and I get it. It's just most likely like you're gonna end up spending that $500 and you're not gonna get a single purchase,
Yeah.
right? And it's like because like you don't know what people actually care about yet, right? You don't know how to get people's attention quite yet, right? Like, and then, yeah, it might be a great video, right? Don't get me wrong. Sometimes that does work, right? It just works a little bit better, which is all you necessarily need to get people to click on it and to do it in that way and set up exactly where it's actually you're getting the purchases, right?
Yeah. So for
Um,
me, what I would probably recommend the order would be, I mean, like you were saying, go put your energy into giveaways. It is still an investment because
yeah,
you're going to be giving away product and all of that, but on the scale of investment, it's pretty small. So go focus on that, right? Start building up your email list, putting out
yep,
content, and work on your organic content on social media, TikTok, Instagram, all of that. We're going to talk more about TikTok, but start there. And then again, I'm a big fan of lead ads, which you can do at a much smaller amount of money. And I've seen really good success. Just those aren't going to be direct to purchase, but they're going to get people on your email list. So then when you have a great welcome sequence, now you're, potentially selling through your email sequence. And then it's like, then make a decision like, okay, I'm ready to make an investment. And what I see is people just are like so scared and they nickel and dime it. And they're like, well, can we just do $1,000 or can we just do this? It's like, then you end up just kind of fizzling out and then you're frustrated and you're like, it doesn't work. But if you actually just said, okay, I'm willing to put in, essentially maybe even like a 15K investment with agency fees and the budget and everything in order to, over time, like you said, a 4X, I know you're getting great results for your clients. Basically, that means for every dollar you spend, you're getting four back or
yeah,
three back,
you can.
four back,
Yep,
four back.
yeah,
So if I found an ATM machine, that I put in $1 and then I got four back. You better believe I would be
I'd
I'd
be
be
there
putting
all
money in
day.
that thing all day long, right?
Yeah, and like it's it just takes time,
It
right?
does.
And like even getting a positive of like 1.2, right? That's super meaningful, right?
Yes.
Because like most likely that customer is going to buy again for like probably 40 to 60% of the time, right? And then
Right.
if you have good emails too, right? Then they will keep up purchasing,
Right.
because your email strategy essentially is just your retention strategy,
Right. So
right?
now you're increasing your lifetime value of your customer, bringing
Yeah.
down your CAC, your customer acquisition cost over time.
Yeah.
It's a whole
Yeah.
thing.
All of it.
Yeah. But
But yeah,
it's
no, so
scary. I get it. It's a big leap, It's like, oh, I found this magical ATM, but I have to spend 10K or 15K to get it to work in a couple months, essentially. So, not for everyone, but I mean, I'm just curious from your lens. I mean, you've probably seen companies spend even a lot more than that.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, we have like the TikTok ads that we're spending is close to 50K a month, right? Like, and then like we get it pretty quickly at 10 to 20K a month on Meta, and it's kind of how it goes in this
That's
industry. I
how
mean,
these
there's
things
people that
work. Yeah.
people spend 3K a day on Meta ads,
Wow.
right? So that's 90K a month. And then sometimes they spend like close to 50K a day. It's like that obviously that's insane, but that's kind of the name of the game.
Wow.
Um,
I want people to hear those numbers because I think, I was talking with my Master Your Business cohort the other day and we were talking about these numbers and it's like $1 million business is actually not that big, right? Like we're all
yeah.
like $1 million, but like that's just a drop in when you start getting into like real business world, yeah, you're dropping 90K a month in ads. But if you're getting a 4x ROAS, right? Like that's
Yeah.
huge. That's that's
That's
coming
what you
back
want.
at you.
Sure.
And and that's really where now I'm not saying you guys know listening, I don't believe every business this should be your model, right? Like it's based on your, what you decide success looks like. But for those of you who are like, I want to be $1 million business or $5 million business, $10 million business, this it's like getting used to big numbers is
Sure.
part of the journey.
And I think like the other side too, which I do want to point out is like the sooner you can start testing, the better on Meta, right? Like if you can either learn how to do this or like help show you how to do this, right? Uh, it's just if you can start doing this now, even if you're just in farmers markets, right? But if you can start testing and getting everything out there, right? Then like as soon as you're actually ready, right? Then this becomes so much easier
Yeah.
because then you have so much data to see what customers are actually there, right? And purchasing, and Meta knows who's purchasing or not purchasing over time. And so like the sooner you can start to do this, then that'll allow your scaling when you have the revenue and the excess cash to be better.
Yeah. Great. Well, let's talk about something I get asked about all the time, TikTok shop. And I don't know very much about it. I honestly am like, that's a great question. Let's go find somebody who knows. So
I'll figure
I
it
know
out.
you become a really big fan of this and you're gonna be you and your new company are gonna be doing more of TikTok shop. So tell us what it is, what we need to know. Educate me.
Yeah, sure. And so I think the first thing that I just want to point out is don't be afraid of TikTok Shop shutting down, right? I really was. And the reason for that is if TikTok Shop does get shut down, Meta is building the exact same platform. That's what they're doing right now. By the end of the year, it'll basically be TikTok Shop. So I think like all those creators, if TikTok does get shut down, which it likely won't at this point, then they're all just going to go to Meta. And then you're going to have the exact same situation, right? Because a lot of them are influencers on both platforms. So like this is here to stay. It's called like social commerce, right? And so I think the sooner you can kind of jump on that, the sooner that your business can thrive. Um, TikTok is a essentially a platform where influencers are selling your product directly, right? Which is why I'm a little bit upset that I wasn't there at the beginning of our business. Because instead of sending all of your product to influencers that you have no idea really if you're making any money off of them, because discount code URLs don't work, website links. Um, Now you directly know if they're selling your product because it's all tracked through the TikTok Shop app, right? You can see what people are actually buying or not buying from that specific influencer or not, from what specific post, right? And people of all ages will hit buy now directly off TikTok, right? And that's just crazy, right? Like there's nothing else like that. Like you have one influencer that's really good at selling a supplement, right? That has he's not even maybe not even an influencer, right? He has 5,000 followers, but he makes one video that is way better than any video that you've ever made about trying to sell your product. And you make 30K in a day. And you're like, what? That was crazy, right? And so
So it's
it's
kind of like it's almost like QVC meets social
yeah,
media.
really. It's an infomercial. Like
But
it's
the
like,
average Joe, like you don't have to be go on. Go to the
yeah,
side.
no, yeah, it's that's it, right? And like, and so the name of the game is just mass outreach to influencers, right?
Okay.
And like, and that's like, I mean, obviously there's more to everything, but like you give them a commission, right? and like you commission up off the sales, and you don't have to pay them a retainer, right? So you don't have to pay them any money to post because they want to make money too, right?
Right.
And so like, and
So
that's
it's a little bit better than kind of the current like influencer model where they're like, yeah, I'll make you one video for $8,000 and but like it's not based on actual sales or
for sure. Yeah, yeah. And so it's like, oh man, now you can just, yeah, I mean, because we built a program, right? I think we had like 250 influencers that we like reached out to and we sent product to, and it helped, right? But we had no idea if it was
yeah,
actually coming from them or not. We had just
right.
genuinely like our sales boosted, but we were doing so many things. We're like, I don't know.
Yeah, the insight, the analytics weren't great.
Yeah.
So I've been getting really excited. You and I have been talking about, you helping people with TikTok Shop. So because you
Hmm.
do know the influencer world really well and you understand how this all thing all works, I'm still just like, I'm so barely on TikTok. Like, I just don't spend time there. So this all just blows my mind.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of part of why I was like reluctant, right? And so, I mean, but it's just not, I mean, I think I told you the supplement I'm working with just made 150K last month on off of TikTok alone, right? And it's like, and that's not abnormal, right? Like obviously it took time, like that probably took us 3 to 6 months to get there, but like that's crazy, you know?
That's
Like,
insane. That is
yeah,
insane.
like and like we're not doing crazy amounts of ad spend. I said 50K, but it's like it ranges from 20 to 50 depending on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So how are you going to help people with TikTok Shop? What's the process that you go through with like and likes?
Yeah, so we will help set up the whole process, right? Anything that you guys have done, right? We'll take what you have and then we'll move it from there. We'll do all the mass outreach ourselves, right? And so we also have a creative community that we also work with. So what that means is it's GMV, it's how much money they've made over time, right? If they've had more than 100K of revenue over the course of theirs, that's who you want to look for, or 50K. We have like a community that we plug into, and so we can basically reach out to them to try to do that. And we'll also just reach out to people that have a high fulfillment rate, which means that they'll actually sell their product, right? And they'll actually do it, and they'll actually like post their product. Um, and so we'll just make sure that we are accounting for this. We use an AI software, right, to do these mass outreach, but we're again always checking to make sure that it sounds real. And then the first response is always with a human, right? And so
Yeah,
we always look at it like we kind of have to do a mass outreach to get there. There's too many. It's not
right.
as effective to do it yourself anymore, even though we all want to say that it is. Like, and so we will make sure that it is accounted for, and we try to make sure that the groupings make sense when we do this. So we'll set up basically these GPTs, like scrape their data and find out, like make sure the conversation is good. And we'll just handle all the conversations, right? We'll make sure that your product is sent out to the right amount of people, how many will talk to you about how much product you have available to send to them, and we'll monitor everything ourselves.
That's a really good point. Like you got to be ready with product
Yeah,
if this
sure.
thing blows up. When
Yeah,
this
yeah.
thing blows up, you get
Yeah.
with the right influencers.
Yeah. And like, I mean, ideally, we're sending out 20 samples a day to different influencers, right? So you also have to be ready with samples.
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, like if you have excess product and no cash flow, this is where you should go, right? Because now you have an ability to basically send it out to influencers and you can see how much people are purchasing or not purchasing.
Yeah. Wow. That's just incredible. And all of these things are, of course, investments, but this is marketing 101. Like this is part of running a business if you really want to grow it beyond, you know, the farmer's market or some local wholesale. If you really want to do e-commerce, I mean, the numbers, it is a numbers game. And we need to get a lot of people into the net right into the funnel to start selling them, whether it's on
Sure.
email, whether it's through ads, whether it's through influencers like TikTok Shop.
Yep. And yeah, I mean, you said it right. Like it's a funnel, right? And that's why like you got to start with email, right? Because like you don't want to spend all this money on getting a new customer and then having your retention strategy not good, right?
Yeah,
Because a lot of the time, like you're basically at one, right? You when you do these ads, when you do TikTok, when you do everything, when you break it all down, a lot of the time you're basically breaking even on that. But the idea is that you have these new customers, right? And they're always going to come back and they're going to like your product and then they keep purchasing from you, right?
right,
And so like if you can't have if you don't have a good email, then sometimes that can be a waste, right?
right. You do all this effort to get them
Yeah.
on your email. You don't have good emails. Ah, it kind of breaks down from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
Sure.
gosh. Yeah, I'm sure you're like, oh man, if I had all these things back in 2019, it'd be a
Oh
different
yeah.
world. But
Yeah. And I mean that was a part of it, right? Like I did it and I've come from just bootstrapping businesses in the past and so I didn't really necessarily know e-commerce and had to learn it all and super useful now, right? If I go
yes,
start another brand, then I'm ready to know exactly what to do.
absolutely. And you've been getting new clients and really showing great returns on investment. So really
Yeah,
excited that you were able to come on the podcast. You're going to be our Fuel VIP guest in April. So, members in there will be able to ask you specific questions, and we're going to put
sweet.
together a really great offer for members. But I'd
Yeah,
love for you to share where people can find you and hook up with you if they're interested in talking about any of these services.
yeah, for sure. So the agency website is likeandlikesai.ai. And then my Instagram is my full name, Ariel Gordon, Arial Gordon. And LinkedIn is Ari-Gordon.
Okay.
And feel free to email me too. It's Ari at likeandlikes.ai.
Perfect. I'll put your info into the show notes as well,
Cool.
and let Ari know that you heard him on the podcast and you want to
Yeah,
make some investments to grow your business because
sure.
yeah, it's
And if
possible.
you
It's
just,
possible to like really transform your business through these platforms.
and I mean, at the end of all this, I'm just here to help. So if you guys have any questions, just feel free to reach out and we'll have a conversation and just want to see you guys succeed because it's hard out here. So feel free.
Yes. Yeah. Well, Ari's, one of the best around, and you're just easy to work with, and you'll tell people if it's not the right time or a good fit.
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I appreciate that.
Love it. Well, thanks for the conversation. I certainly learned. I'm just like, okay. TikTok shop. It's blowing my
Time to
mind.
go. Okay.
Yeah. That's amazing. So really appreciate
Wow.
your time today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Wow. Mine is blown. Oh, what a great conversation with Ari. And if you are curious about the email piece, the meta ads, or TikTok shop, definitely go reach out to him. He'll totally have a conversation with you, and he's a really great guy. And frankly, if it were me, if I had a product, I would absolutely 100% go and find the money to start on TikTok shop and also with good emails, of course. But that is incredible. That is an incredible platform that I would be 100% taking advantage of. And if you want to have that conversation with Ari, what are you waiting for? Come join us in Fuel. You'll need to go to foodbizsuccess.com and join us in either Master Your Business or in Food Business Success. And both those programs will get you access to our call with Ari in April. So don't wait, make an investment in your business, come and learn this stuff. And until next time, have an amazing week.